in business, my brother. Let's do this. Let's go. Let's go catch up.
We're behind
Come on,
here
guys.
because
Come on, Rudy.
the SD card was not in the camera. I forgot to put it in
Messing
there.
with this stuff.
So I had to use the spare one to the bottom of the gimbal.
Left. Car left.
So we stopped to load that when the group started.
Let you go. Come on.
So they're down the road.
Come on, guys.
And I'm hustling them along so we can catch up. On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton, rode into the woodlands to pick up Team RR. We headed out on Research Forest to Fish Creek into Honea on Honea Egypt Road, all the way to Raven Chapel Road, Mill Route Road, lots of attacks there, 2854 into Montgomery. We stopped at the store briefly, then went into the forest. Once we got through the forest, we took 149 south to Bailey Grove Road, got on Jackson Road into Dacus, taking 1486 south into Dobbins. We stopped at another store, and then we got back on 1486 and took Jackson Road past Karen into Magnolia. At that point, we got on 1488 east and headed back towards the woodlands. It was a very good ride, very intense. Lots of action. We were able to get a few clips. There were periods of time where we ended up leaving the camera behind because Paul didn't want to really go at the effort of the front group, but I think you will find the clips interesting.
Let's get up there.
So the group's up the road. As I explained earlier, we had to stop to put the SD card in the camera. Not sure why I forgot to put that in there, but I always carry 2 SD cards. So I had one in the bottom of the stick of the gimbal, and that's in there. And I was feeling particularly good this morning. We had already ridden. We had to end up doing an intense warm-up to get to the Team RR meeting place because we were about 10 minutes behind our usual departure time. Probably more like 7 minutes, but it makes a difference. So we upped the intensity on our ride up to the group this morning. And so it was as if to say it was a warm-up for like a time trial. So both Paul and I are very warmed up. I was hoping this light would change before we got there, but it didn't.
Faster too. The ridge is gone.
Come on, nobody using this rail. Let's do this.
It's Crown Ridge. It's a quiet road. I'm not sure why the light is still red for us. This is the main drag. We're facing the main drag. We should get priority. It finally changes.
I know, but I'm old, man.
I'm ready to go. I want to get up there. So I kick us back up to speed quickly. I'm looking to see where Paul is so he can slip in so we can go. That's how you do it when you ride in town and you stop at the light. As soon as the light changes, get back up to speed. It gets your intensity back up right away. That's pretty much what you do in a criterion. So you can see 36 kilometers an hour is about almost 23 miles an hour. I figure we do something like that, we got to catch up quickly. And then we start to see some of the riders come into view. You will see shortly. I can see them at this point, but just the stragglers of the back of the main group. Time the light, that light changes. It was red a second ago, and then I let them know we're going through. This is Branch Crossing on the left there. That's the road Paul and I use when we're going home after the ride. This is a hard pace. This is basically effort 4 out of 5. The heart rate's gonna have to catch up. I'm not that concerned about it. I'm not going full gas, but I'm going a little harder than sweet spot. Those are the riders we're beginning to see on the right there. They're coming into view. Ends up being Mark and a new guy I hadn't ridden with before. Never got to meet him. You can see my heart rate's catching up with the effort now. That's why I like to use RPE. You need to know whether you're going 50%, 75%, so forth and so on. I knew I was going 4 out of 5. That's what matters, because I can do that all day. And it's fast. It's a little below time trial pace. These are not the guys, this is not our goal here. Our goal is the main group, so I don't slow down. I'm probably using a 5317 gear, which is an 84-inch gear. Then we spot the main group up the road there, down the hill. That's the new guy on the right. I'm not sure what he's doing, but at this point, it shows a lot of inexperience because, for one thing, he was riding at a slower pace with Mark. So all of a sudden now there's an urgency for him. What he should have done to save his energy was just get behind us. But he's over on the right expending a lot of energy. He ends up paying for it, among other things that he did later, because within 35 to 40 minutes into this ride, he turns around and goes back home. I don't see him, but Paul saw him by the time we got to Mill Route. So these are the things you have to watch out for. Don't follow the wrong people. But a lot of people try to ride. They're not thinking ahead. So we caught them quickly. And then I noticed this lady on the right. Her name is Katie. I had met her when we rode with Mo's group earlier in the year. And for some reason I just remembered her. There were 2 ladies on that ride. And so I ride up to her just to confirm that my database is working right here. I like it when the ladies come out, especially ladies like her that ride hard. And that's what we're talking about. And she confirmed that, yes. And she had to ask me for my name because she didn't remember my name, but she remembered she had met me. And so here she drifts off. She says she's going home. I think she's hanging out with the kids or something. That's what she said. So she was just out spinning and happened to hook up with these guys because she lives in the Woodlands area. So she wasn't riding with us. But she's a fast rider.
Mike and Victor, man, from behind, your profile, Mike, very similar. Yeah.
I'm messing with Mike and Victor. I said they look the same from behind. Victor doesn't agree. Victor's on the right. So Mike says Victor's a better bike rider, and then I told Mike, I said, yeah, but you look better. You better looking.
Really?
We're just messing around.
Really? You're gonna take that?
The guy on the right with the blue and white jersey there, we're turning right, and I guess it wasn't communicated, so these guys thought we're going straight. We're turning right. The guy in the blue and white jersey there is new to the group. I hadn't seen him out here before. And on Honea, Egypt, he does stuff that just shows he's got a little bit of tuning on his group riding etiquette per se. Nothing bad, just not very efficient. And he ends up paying for it later. You always pay for it. There's always, we call it a tax. It's kind of like if you use your energy indiscriminately, you end up paying for it at some point. We'll all have a finite amount of energy in the body. You can train and increase that, but you don't waste it. You got to be careful with it. You know, all cyclists
It's too big. What you
that have
talking
been riding for some time know that. You have to be very stingy with your energy. Now go ahead and put on my glasses though, on my helmet, because when we leave it's relatively dark, and so I don't use them until daylight comes in. We got a good sized group here.
How are you, Jerry?
That's Jerry right there. Later on in the ride, the group ends up splitting at Taco Corner.
Oh yeah, that was horrible, man.
Did you get stuck over here?
Yeah, man, we had to go this way.
Yeah, well,
He's talking about the rain last
Oh,
week.
really? Wow.
It was over his water bottle.
Yeah, we got here. We went through the parking lot, and we got through.
Yeah, that's right. After I saw him like sinking, I did that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Man,
we
it
got
was
caught in
horrible
the
coming
rain.
out.
This intersection
It was
floods
windy.
across the light. It dips. It's a low area and it
That
just
was
fills
scary,
up with
man. I
water.
couldn't even see.
That's what they're talking about. So as you go through the intersection, it goes down once you get under the light there, and that's where the water just pools. So it becomes like just a gathering point. The water has nowhere to go. Right there where I am, all of it was full of water, all on the side here. So when we were coming back last week, we cut through the parking lot there and went east to the right. This is Paul here. His name is Paul also. Paul is another 70 plus year old guy that rides with us. A very strong rider. Paul's been an athlete most of his life. He's done coaching, he's done other sports, football, whatever. So he's just one of these guys that has worked out most of his life. He does a lot of marathon style riding now, as far as, you know, just long distance. A lot of time we'll be riding and he'll be like, you guys turning around already? I want to go this way. And so, you know, he puts in the miles. That's what keeps you fit, builds your aerobic engine. That's what you must do to be able to really go fast later. You can't just start by going fast and only do that. You have to maintain your base. So one of the plans I'm going to be building will be a 12-week base plan. I will have an 8-week base plan. You know, so we have some flexibility for those who just want to do an 8-week. But then once you're done with that, you have to maintain that in a structured plan going forward. So when he comes out, he wants to ride long. So a lot of times we'll be hammering. Paul here in view will hang with the group for a while and then decide, you guys are riding too fast for my goal today. And that's kind of what he did today, later in the ride. So it's not like he can't hold the pace, but he chooses not to for that duration per se. He wants to do something else with his day. And it's the same thing with Paul H over here. He said that we were talking about what happened on his ride later, and he said we're going up the hill and he saw 400 watts on his power meter reading, and we were passing him. And he's like, you guys are just going a lot faster than I wanted to go. Because he has a limit that he sets for his ride, and he's like, I'm not going to go over 400 watts, so I can do 4.5, 5 hours, whatever the goal is. So, and you will see that at the store, a lot of people ended up coming back.
You're looking good, my man.
See, Paul's got the team kit. Paul H got a team kit, and we were able to get our hands on a size that fit him without putting in a full order. So there he is. Veloharmony colors, looking good. Paul liked the kit from the first time he saw it, and he expressed that. So he got the kit, he got the gloves, the long summer gloves. He prefers the long one. He says he wants to cover as much skin as possible. He's very sensitive to the sun. There's a car coming, so we let the other riders know that a car is coming, even though we made the turn. because it's an unprotected turn. This is Honea Egypt Road, and this road, it just makes you want to ride fast. This road has no stops for probably about 10 kilometers, I'm estimating. That's Jerry in front of me, one of the hammerheads. The guy in the blue is the one. So what I do here, I see him pull off because he doesn't know the route. So he asks Jerry where we're going. And Jerry said, well, this road just goes straight. Something like that's what they're talking about. So I leave a gap so he can get behind Jerry. Mike's winding everything up, making sure his shoe feels right. You should be able to do what you just saw Mike do. You know, make slight adjustments. Because sometimes you put on your shoes, it doesn't feel right once you get on the bike. You should be able to flip the Velcro tab, put it back on. You know, I have a pair of shoes that the Velcro, when I'm riding, kind of comes loose from time to time. You know, it's an older shoe. And those Velcro, whatever the little hairs that grab on, over time, they kind of weaken. So you got to press down on them with your hand and get them in place sometimes. I'm all for extending the life of stuff that I buy, so I don't just throw things away unless they're totally unusable. Try to squeeze every dollar out of the product. You can see my cadence is up. Since we chased early in the ride, I'm making sure I keep my legs supple. Jerry's at the front pulling. I look back to make sure the group is together. Just kind of quick check on people. We get a nice rear view here from our cinematographer here. That's Greg there, Greg shot. I think that's Dan behind Greg. So we got a lot of guys in the group. At the front, this particular stretch here was so hard that I didn't see a lot of people coming to the front. And that's okay, because if you're strong and you pull off the front, I usually just take the first gap I see. I don't have to go all the way to the back of the group to recover, because that's the way I train. I train pretty hard. And I wanted a good workout. I was feeling good today. I had good legs. I had a very good training week. Didn't have any interruptions. So that was a plus. Now you see here, look at my cadence, look at the speed. I'm using cadence because all of a sudden, Jerry started accelerating. Look at the gap we put on Mike. That's what cadence does. It's going to take Mike a little while to close that because he's not spinning as quickly. We're relatively on a slight downhill, flat to slight down. It says -1 and it says 0. So when you're on a flat road, you got to use cadence. That's the snap that makes you respond instantly without really overstressing your legs. I'm basically not pedaling here. We're going 53 kilometers an hour. That's in excess of 32 miles an hour. This is a slight downhill here. So Jerry just turned up the speed, and because of me being alert and just keeping my gear moderate, I just revved it up. You can see I'm soft pedaling. And I'm using the wind to slow me down so I don't have to brake. The road's leveling off. We're off that downhill. So Jerry's backed off the power here. You can hear the wind. It's out here. Once you get over 30 miles an hour, you feel it. I'm looking for cars just to make sure I move out to the side to see what's coming. You know, the edge of the road is not very clean. It's got those little reflectors stuck on the white line in certain spots. I don't like rolling over. You can see where I'm riding. Debris on the right. That's the effectiveness of hand signals. You don't need to see what I'm signaling out at. Just move away from my hand. If you notice, I'm in third position. I'm the only one who gave that signal. So you're not going to get everybody's signal depending on what's going on with the guy at the front. So you can, that's why I'm slightly to the left so I can see around them. I want to see what's coming. Then I can plan my route and alert everybody else. That's the reason why you should not be exceeding your max level at the front so that you're able to be aware of what's happening around you, to keep everybody safe. That's just an ill-patched hole. It's a little bumpy, so I like to point those out so riders don't have it. Now you know here, the part of the pavement here on the right is chewed up. You can see I drift to the left. Jerry pulls off. I rev up to get on his buddy's wheel. And I stay to the left because he's riding on that cracked pavement where the weight of cars and then with water, water covers the road, so it's soft. You can see where I'm riding. I'm finding the smoothest patches to ride on. I want to minimize my time on even pavement. If you see the middle of the road where it looks dirty, that's from the middle of the cars where the oil drips from cars. I like to use from here where I am to the right. That's the quadrant of the section of the road I like to use. From that middle dirty area to the right, that's where I like to ride. And we usually do that even when riding two abreast. That's all you need to use is half the lane. It's available because that forces the drivers to pass you by going over the yellow line. Especially when the road is not that busy. But actually when it's super busy, you even want to do that more so until it's safe for them to pass. You don't want them to ignore that you're on the road. So I have to restate that. You don't want to ride on the edge of the road when it's super busy. When it's busy, you need to take up the road. You need to position yourself so drivers wait until it's safe to pass. It is not safe to squeeze yourself by the edge of the road and force them to pass you in your lane if the lane is not very wide. You have to make that decision to use the road. So he waved me over here and then he continues to hold the same speed. Watch it. I'm not going to speed up. So he started to coast. And then I continue. If you notice, my speed did not change. And all of a sudden I see a gap here on the clip. I didn't know there was a gap at that point. I did not look behind. I kept the speed the same. So I did not look behind. Now, I don't understand why there's a gap there because we got enough people in the group to pull through and take their pull. Nobody wants to come through. At this point, I'm just pulling. I'm not aware of what may be going on behind me. I just continue to ride. But in a more efficient group situation, people should be pulling through to take their cuts at the front. Even if you don't plan on sitting there for an appreciable amount of time, you pull through and pull off, as opposed to just leaving gap for this guy who just pulled to go right back. Because he needs a longer break to be able to really effectively pull again. And that's his decision to make. A lot of times if I pull off like he did and there's a gap and I want to go further back, I ignore the gap and I drift back and let other people pull through the line. Because in this group especially, a lot of people will sit in the back and then when the pace changes, they'll come around you if you've been sitting up there too long. So you notice I didn't stay there too long because the pace is hot. So I see this huge gap after this guy. I'm like, I'm not going back up there. So I stay off to the left to make sure people pull through. And you see them coming through now. Everybody needs to pitch in and help the group along. So now we got a few riders up there. There's another large. So there are people that are still allowing large gaps. They're still hanging on the back. Now, there are several reasons why people do that. The pace may be too fast for them to want to come near the front and they choose to sit back there. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. what I have an issue with in certain rides is that certain riders who should be helping the group don't help the group. They sit in the back, then wait till the end of the ride to come around to the front to ride off the front after the ride's over. What's the point of that? So if you're not going to help the group, then what's the point of you being in the group? If you are strong enough, and I think what's his name, Kurt was the one that made the announcement at one of the bike barn rides. He said it's only fair that if you have the fitness that you contribute to the progress of the group you're riding with. And I thought that was well said. That's all that's about. There are no hard, fast rules. But if you're just gonna sit in the back and want other people to pull you, well, that's a choice you can make. But I'm not sure what your goal is then, because it's not gonna make you any stronger. Waiting till the end of the ride to increase the speed does not make you strong. The people who are pulling for long periods of time, for miles, they're gonna be strong. And then what's gonna happen when they really drop the hammer one day, you will have no chance to even get on that wheel. So just remember that. You wanna be strong, you gotta work. There are no shortcuts. Because even the guys in the pro peloton that sit on their teammates' wheels and get delivered to the base of a climb, when they get to that climb, they got to put out some serious power. And that's why their teammates are sacrificing themselves. Because these guys have shown that they can do the work when necessary. They've had to have shown they have the background and the pedigree to deliver before people sacrifice for them. That's what that's about. So I take a drink here, sit in. I know this road in about a mile, maybe a kilometer and a half, it will start going up. We got a lot of little falls flats, and then we got a couple of rises. And after that, we hit Raven Chapel. So you can see we're moving here. We're not playing. There wasn't much of a warm-up. That's that's another reason I ride to the ride. If you have a structured plan and you ride frequently enough and it's laid out right, a lot of times you don't need much of a warm-up. Your body's ready. That's the reason you want to be on a plan that allows you to ride frequently. It's not necessarily riding a lot of hours, but frequently in the correct zones. That's my new Veloharmony teammate up there, Paul H. The man with a plan. Paul's one of the hard men in the group. Paul's going to be riding with us next week. We're doing the Heroes Ride. We've been fortunate to be able to sign up for the Heroes Ride to support the officers in our area. It supports law enforcement officers in the area. Victor pulls to the left and he's pressing. This is hard here. We're working, okay? Yeah, my heart rate's not very elevated for me, but it doesn't matter. You know, the heart's a different muscle. My legs are telling me that we're working. So I'm letting people know the road's a little crappy over that bridge. So these guys were at the back. Now the pace is picking up. They moved up. Now Mike here on the right with the blue shirt is leaving a gap. I see the gap, but what I'm trying to see if he's going to close it. Victor presses on to get up to those guys. And you know, I had the option. I could have gone with Victor, but I decided that I was going to try to keep the group together here, because if the rest of the guys want to go up there, they can press on. Mike has no intent to close that gap. So you see I moved by him. This is the stuff I talk about, passing on the right, passing on the left. I pass Mike on the right, no problem, because he's aware, he's holding his line. That's why I don't like people that tell riders don't pass on the right. You can pass any which way. Look at my cadence. I'm using the downhill here, revving it up, because in a way you're not going super hard. But if you can spin, this is hard to do, because then you got to be in a big gear, turning a lower cadence. You know, 49 kilometers an hour. We're doing almost 30 miles an hour. Get up there. So by using my cadence, I have plenty of freshness in my legs for whatever may come later. You can see Paul is very close with the camera because the wind's coming from in front and to the right. So he's staying a little to my left. I'm trying to keep him away from all those bumps on the right. That's why I place myself. That's another reason I try to make sure I know where people are. So we come up on these guys and listen. Mark said slowing. I was like, in my mind, I'm like, we're not slowing. Because if I'm chasing people and I get up there, I'm not going to follow them if they're going slower than I am. I'm just going to roll through. Those guys were not going as fast as we were. Because Victor and someone up there twisted the screw. I don't know who that is. Victor rode up to them. I don't remember who the rider is up there. My goal is not to catch these guys. Right now, this is the group speed. This is a hard, solid effort. I'm sitting at the front knowing that I can hold this forever. Now, Mark moves up to join Victor and whoever else is up there. So I ride up to Mark. And now this starts to break up the group. That was just instinct. I just revved it. I didn't shift. I just revved up my gear. And now Paul is just going up there. So Paul Ilonga is here with the camera and these guys are going around him. So Mike tried to go, but it's like he has no power in his legs right there because that guy in the green just rode up from him. We're up the road there. So it's a little under an hour in the ride, and so I can understand these guys don't want to kill themselves. That's Paul, the other guy, the other Paul. We have like 3 Pauls on the ride today. We actually have about 4 Pauls in the group, but 3 of them are here today. That's Jerry, and that's Greg that went around Paul Ilonga. And in a little while, Tim comes around Paul Ilonga here.
Huh?
Is that a new jersey?
You know, it's old.
Tim asked Paul if the kit was new, our team kit. It's the first time he's seen it. And so Paul told him, no, it's old. So Tim goes around Paul here, and what I do is I go ahead and edit for time, because after Tim goes around Paul, Paul's back here riding by himself, and we're up the road, and so I cut it and moved us along to where Paul catches up at the intersection we had gotten caught by the red light. As he gets here, these 2 cars go around him, you can see us turning left. So he goes ahead, he turns, and gets to the back of the group. Now, he and I already talked about this. What I think he should have done here was he should have gone around these 2 guys. You see right here? They're chatting, and the group is pulling away. That's a gap they're going to have to close. And every time you have to close a gap, you're working harder. Because if we're 10 yards ahead doing 32 kilometers an hour or 20 miles an hour, you got to do about 21 or 22 to close that gap. And that means you're expending more energy. So what I told Paul was he should have gone around these guys. I edited it for time because they were back there for a while. And now I showed where they've worked hard. And if once again come to the tail end of the group, we're right there. I'm on the left up there in front of Jerry. Again, there will be a gap opening, and I don't understand why they didn't stay close, because they ended up working probably 3 to 4 times as hard. Because once Jerry caught back up to us, he had expended a lot of energy because we were riding hard. And you will see it in a little bit when we attack the first hill. We're in the distance when we attack the hill because the camera's further back. Because Paul's sitting behind these guys. Now I'm trying to figure out what happened that they let such a gap open again. Because they've already closed the gap. You think they would just stay there. And the other rider also in front of them, his name is Paul. He was the one that told Paul Ilonga that these guys are riding harder than I wanted to go today. So now there's a gap in front of the guy in front of these 2 guys. The group has a little gap, not much. We're not going that hard at this point. You can see my heart rate 147. I'm in the top of zone 1. That's why I told him he should have gone around these guys and gotten in there and just stayed close instead of sitting back here. We talked about it. Because these guys are sitting back here chatting like we're going for a Sunday ride. And the problem is they're going to end up paying the price. And remember that when you ride with your group, anytime you got to close any kind of gap, you're going to expend more energy to do that. So if you plan on riding with people anyway, don't let gaps happen. Go around those who create them and stay close to the main riders you want to stay with. Stay close to the group. You don't have to go with breakaways or guys who are sprinting like crazy off the front, but stay with the main group. Save your energy that way. I look back, I'm actually looking to see where Paul is, because I'm not sure why they're hanging back here. You can see the gap is growing now. That means they'll have to work to cover that space. It's never easy closing a gap. So if you plan on riding with people, stay close. These guys are back here having a conversation. You should have gone around them a long time ago. Because now is the time to close the gap when the group is not going super hard. See the gap happening up there. Just look through. We'll come into a stop sign. We go through the stop sign here. Look at the gap open. Look at that. So when that's happening, you know if you're gonna ride with these people, you're gonna be working twice as hard to get up there. We're pulling away. They're still chatting. We're gone up the road. That's Victor on the left there. Victor starts to make a move. You will see me in a little bit. I jump on Victor's wheel. Right there. I get on Victor's wheel. That's when all hell breaks loose. Look at the stats, because you can't really see from here. The camera's so far behind. Look at my stats. We're going up a climb at 45 kilometers an hour, a 3% climb. We got over that climb like it was nothing. You can see my heart rate jump like 20 beats. We're gone. They've been hanging back here chatting. They're history. We're gone. That's what happens. You cannot mess around. You will end up riding alone. So I cut from there. We are Taco Corner because we never saw them again.
Let's try this again. Hopefully the second round is better.
We're getting ready to straighten up and get out of here and leave, and more than half of the group decide they're going to go back. So they rode like a bunch of maniacs, and they got to Taco Corner and realized they couldn't continue, so they turn around and going back home.
Heading back, man.
All right, buddy, be careful, man.
So the hard men are going out. These guys are heading back. That's Paul H. He's going out. We're going north. We end up doing like an extra 2 hours. These guys are going back. So all the maniacs are going back home because they didn't pace themselves.
I don't know if it's on.
It's on. Yeah, it's already on.
I'm asking Paul if the camera's on. You know. So from that point where you saw, we never saw those guys again until we got to the store here.
All the bikes are gone.
As far as the people who are off the back.
Let's go.
Jerry caught up for a bit. Jerry caught up, but I never saw Greg or anybody else. And I ended up riding up to 105 by myself. I really didn't want to stop, so I just kept riding. And now we're headed into the Sam Houston National Forest. So when you're riding with a group, stay close so that you don't end up missing out. the attacks back there were thick and fast. We were attacking each other like crazy. This is FM 1097. We're headed northeast. Mark wasn't sure if he wanted to go back, but the ride was so, this is like what? Maybe an hour and a half into the ride, because we rode an extra 35 minutes to meet them. So when you look at the duration, an hour and a half on a Saturday, and then they were going back to maybe 2.5 hours. I need more than that on a Saturday. I need 3.5 hours. 3 hours or more is good, because that's when I can do that. So definitely I was game to go longer. Paul H is up the road. He was going long with or without anybody. He didn't care. That's the reason why he let us go when we passed him, when he was doing 400 watts and we passed him on that climb. He was like, you guys are going way too fast. I don't miss having a power meter, because when I used to use it, I didn't really look at it that much. When it's time to go hard, who cares what that thing is saying? Like I've said on this channel, they're okay, they're good to have for you to go back and analyze what you did. But when it's time to ride, you need to ride. You've got time to look at that foolishness. Let's go. Now, if you're going to pace yourself by it, that's fine. But, you need to also be able to pace yourself by feel. So if the power meter is not working, you can still ride and still be efficient. You got to be able to do it all. So there's nothing wrong with them, but just don't make them a crutch. They're training tools that give you feedback to what you're doing. They don't ride the bike. You do. So you need to know how hard you're going. Can I sustain this with or without power meters or heart rate monitors? You need to know I'm going 1 out of 5 or 2 out of 5, 3 out of 5, all of that. We call it the rate of perceived exertion. You need to know I am at this pace. I'm gonna have to stop soon, and then you notch it down if you plan on going longer. That's what Paul H did back there. That's what Paul Ilonga did by letting us go. But I felt like I told Paul Ilonga, I said he should have been behind us, because then he would have been at the back of the sprint. We would have gotten a better view of the sprint, and then he could have let us go instead of sitting behind those two guys that were chatting. Plus, you get a better draft from a bigger group anyway. They make a bigger hole for you to rest than behind two riders. So if you're planning on trying to take a break, sit behind more riders. They make a bigger hole in the wind. You will rest better than just 1 or 2 riders. But he and I chatted about it, we laughed about it, but it was something I needed to point out to him so he's aware, because that's something that he knew about. But I think he expected those two guys to stay on the tail of the group. And then once it started to fall back, maybe he just didn't want to expend the effort to go around them. Those are the kind of things you got to do quickly before the gap grows. So Paul H is pulling at the front. Mike is behind Paul. I'm behind Mike. And Mark is here in front of Paul Ilonga. And Rudy is, I believe, is behind Paul Ilonga. But when it got hot and heavy, out of that whole group, there was only 4 of us mixing it up. It was Victor, Mark, myself, and Jerry on Mill Route. Mill Route, as Paul H said, Mill Route has never been a separator, but it was on this day. I wish I had a camera with me so you guys could have seen the action. It was intense. So if you're going with a group and the pace is very hard early and you plan on going for many more hours, let them go, back off, just like the guys did on this ride. So that now you see here we've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, we got 6 riders out of maybe 15 that's continuing. So we probably had like 8 or 9 that turn around 40 kilometers into the ride. They're going back home. Nothing's wrong with doing an 80-kilometer ride, but if that's not your goal, next time you're with them and they're going crazy, let them go. I didn't really care the kind of training I do. I go hard and then go long. So it didn't matter to me because I know, been there, done that. So you got to know yourself. So they missed out on just some serious training because this ride was epic. We got some good work in, what I call good suffering in. So they really missed out. So you keep that in mind. Have no hesitation letting groups of riders or a rider go, knowing that I'm planning on doing 4 hours today. I need to notch it down so you can build the systems you're trying to build. Because people come to a group ride, everybody has their own plan. They don't tell you what they're doing. So they start riding like maniacs. Just know you've got your plan and find like-minded riders and say, I'm going to stay with this group or these guys that are going slower. And you just sit in. There's nothing wrong with being in the second or third group on the road. Now here it is. They're turning back to go home, and we ended up going on just a beautiful epic ride that you would see. So even though Paulie Lunga let them go, here it is now. He's increasing his fitness now by putting in all these other miles. Because that's what we need for next week when we do the Heroes Ride. We're doing 75 miles, which is probably about 130 something kilometers tomorrow. So we don't have, next week, Saturday at Heroes Ride, we don't have to prepare for it because we do that every week. So we did about 140 something kilometers on this ride. So they did 80 kilometers, I'm estimating. We did 60 more. So, not necessarily because you do more, it's going to necessarily make you faster or better. You still have to have a plan, but still, you think about it, that's a lot of good kilometers we got in our legs. Because we're not crawling. This road is slightly up. As we approach the forest, I'm looking for traffic because I know we're going to turn left. I tell him there's a car back. Now I tell him it's clear. That's what I've been looking at. Before we got to this turn, I was making sure I was studying the traffic patterns behind. And so we wait for, I think there's a car, or is it clear? Yeah, there's a motorcycle. We wait for him, and then we turn. This is Mount Pleasant Road, and it goes north. I think it's northwesterly, but it's going relatively north. We're entering the edge of the forest. So on Saturdays, I always want to do 3 hours or more. Minimum 3 hours. So that way, even if you go fast for a little bit, you still get to work on your conditioning. I rode to the front to give Paul H a break. He's been up there for a while. I could tell he was slowing down and stuff. You can kind of tell when somebody's been up there and they need to take a break. They're about to take a break off the front. I didn't need him to tap out. I just rolled to the front. I kept the effort close to what he was doing. This is pretty much zone 2. It's endurance pace. This is the pace Paul and I ride at in the winter, mostly. It looks like a little bit of a smudge on the camera. We had put the camera up, and I guess we kind of missed that. We usually clean the lens. There's a bit of a smudge from, I guess, handling it. Makes it look a little cloudy in certain spots. Benefits of riding in a group, you're more, what's the word? The word eludes me right now. You're more animated, you're more enthusiastic, you're motivated. That's the word. You're more motivated to do the work. I always find it a lot easier to do my speed work in a group. Although I can do it alone, it breaks up the monotony when you're in the group. So riding with a group is great because you're forced to do different things than what you may have planned to do. And sometimes that's good. So this road goes up. And all I'm trying to do is keep the zone the same. We're still in zone 2, approaching zone 3 for me anyway. I'm just trying to keep it the same. You can see Mark's pushing a big gear. Look at his body rocking. Now, what I want to point out, you see Mark's wearing the movie star jersey here? That's how you do it. If you're going to wear a team kit of a professional team or any other team, please wear the entire kit. Don't take the movie star jersey and wear it with some other short. If you're going to buy the kit, buy the whole thing and wear it together. That's just the proper way to do it. It's not a rule that was handed down by any cycling god or whatever. That's just, as Paul H calls it, that's having style. But Paul H told Paulie Lunga this week, he said, you guys have style. That's what I mean. You get style points. If you're going to buy a team kit, whatever team it is that you love, buy the whole kit, please. That's just the way to do it. Now, I'm not talking about, the old retro stuff, like the old Peugeot jersey or whatever, but a lot of those teams back then, they just wore them with black shorts anyway. But if you're going to buy the team kit, buy the whole kit as it is sold. If you buy retro jerseys, a lot of them only sell the jerseys, and that's fine. Well, that's understandable. But a lot of these modern kids, don't wear the movie star jersey with a black pair of shorts. Nothing stops you from doing that. But you lose style, and so you will lose points for that. So just keep that in mind. I think it looks better to just keep it together. So when he got there this morning, I called him Nairo Quintana, and we laughed about it because Nairo Quintana is like a toothpick compared to Mark. Mark is built like a boxer type rider, So we smiled about it. But I liked it. I don't see the movie star kit that often on people, so that's cool. That was nice to see. So downhill here, basically, I'm coasting. Basically reading the road. A lot of the pavement here is a bit chopped up. They've patched it. It's not terrible. It's just got certain spots I try to avoid. I go across the road there to avoid those chipped up areas. If you're finding it difficult to carry a high cadence, once again, I would say check your fit first, and then you need to focus on doing the right workouts to teach your neuromuscular pathways how to pedal faster. We're going to be building a plan for what we call speed work that will tell you specifically how to do that. That makes a difference here. And you can see as I pedal harder here, I don't change my position at all. I don't shift my body. I'm already where I need to be. I may have mentioned it before, but it's very important because as Mike went to the front and forced the pace, all I had to do was pedal faster. Now you can see I'm not even pedaling right now because of the downhill. So when you stop pedaling, breathe. You get a bit of, this is an opportunity to recover. I don't have to pedal, so I just save my energy. I breathe, I'm recovered and ready. And the road starts to go up, I rev it up, and all I'm focusing on is, am I in the proper gear? Is it too easy? Is it too hard? And the great thing about having the shifters right there is you don't have to move your hand. One thing I make sure I do is I keep my shifters adjusted properly all the time. You can see here, once again, I just rev my bike. I think I take the lead. Or am I just sitting next to Mike? I guess I'm just sitting next to Mike. So Mark tells me I'm on your right, I'm not going anywhere. I told him, I said, I see you. And I think this is where I told him, I'm the Terminator, I see everything. And he laughed about it. I knew he was there. We're talking about Paul H. He stopped. He got a phone call, I think, from his daughter. And so he stopped to answer it. And he had told, I believe, There's a rider called Patrick. Patrick has ridden with us for two rides in the past, and I didn't have his name, and I went ahead and just asked him what his name was. So he's back there. You'll probably see him in a little while. He doesn't do the entire route on this part with us because he lives east and we're going to be going west. So we decided there's a stop sign coming up and we're going to wait for Paul H there because he stopped to take a call. And they joked about it. They're like, oh yeah, if my daughter calls, you know, I stop and I take it. Yeah, if my phone rings and I'm riding, everybody that I care about have their own ringtone. So I kind of know who it is before I even touch the phone. And I know that my wife will not call me when I'm riding unless it's something really critical or important. But then, yeah, I would definitely take the call. But for the most part, these guys were joking about the fact that, yeah, if it's my daughter, I stop and take it and so forth. I tell all my family members, you know, that when I'm riding, I like to put the phone on Do Not Disturb. And the cool thing about the phone, it lets you say, you know, if you put it on Do Not Disturb, you can say if this person calls repeatedly from this list, like my favorites list or whatever, let it come through so you can get that. So that's kind of how I screen my calls when I'm riding. Because I take the phone just for me to use in emergencies. I don't take it to be fielding calls in the morning. So I think this is where we're going to stop and wait for Paul H. As we slow down, that road up front dead ends. I'm just going there. I wanted to go and just check it out. Because it doesn't go anywhere, but we never go there because it doesn't go anywhere. So I figured we had some time, but we didn't end up having enough time. That's Patrick in a green jersey. He rode with us part way. He lives on the east side of town, northeast, and he met us at the store. This is his third time riding with us that I've been on the ride. So after the forest, we pick up Paul Edge. We're headed south on the FM 149, going towards Daily Grove Road, where our racer dog lives, but he wasn't home, I guess. He wasn't outside when we got there. So we're on 149 here. Patrick is still with us. He stayed with us until we got to Johnson Road, and then he went south and we went west, because it was out of his way. So he's heading back home. But he stayed with us just to ride with a group because he rode to the store from the north side of town by himself. So it's more fun when you hook up with a group. It's a different kind of riding. So those of you who don't ride with a group, as you start to ride more, try to find one that leaves around the time you do and is riding in an area close to you or that you can get to, and just experience that. You know, I mean, if you're not comfortable riding in a group, start with maybe a few riders and go from there, because it does take your cycling to a different level. We're really moving here. You can see I'm using very high revolutions on my cables. Slightly downhill, you can hear the wind. This ride, overall, with the kind of terrain we rode in, I'm talking up to 4 to 6% climbs. I ended up averaging 28 point something kilometers per hour, and that includes warm up and cool down. So that tells me that with these guys, it was well over 32 kilometers an hour for an average. It was a hard ride. We're turning right here on Bailey Grove Road. Rudy's at the front. We turn right. We're heading west. That's why I mentioned, I said, a racer dog lives on this road. He wasn't home. You know, it would have been fun to have seen him. The road, when you turn on this road, is a slight grade that says 1%. So I always have a tendency to stand on the early part of Bailey Grove. Rudy just pulled off the front, drifted to the back. Rudy was with the group when we started the early attacks. But once we got into mill route, man, it was all over. It was crazy. We were hammering. This group has some great engines. And next week we're going to be doing the Heroes Ride. We've got quite a few riders that are signing up. I believe Mark will be at the Heroes Ride. Paul Ilonga, Paul H will be there. Let's see who else. Victor says he will be there. And we got Bob that also signed up. Bob usually rides on Sunday. I don't think he can make it to the Saturday ride. The Sunday ride has a different atmosphere. It's a little slower than Saturday. But we should be having a good contingent from the Team RR joining us at the Heroes Ride. Should be a lot of fun. Both Paul and I have already registered. I believe Mark, I don't know if Mark, yeah, I know Bob registered because he posted on the group lead page. So we're definitely committed. We want to thank all the patrons on here and make it possible for us to do these things and bring them to you guys. The long-term goal is to do more as the channel grows. We can devote more time and do more adventures and bring more things to the channel, you know, with the right kind of growth. So we're headed in that direction. So things are going to only get better. I only know how to do things one way, high quality. That's why somebody made a comment thanking me for the time I invest in these videos. They like the detail and all that. So this channel is unique. If you're not patient, you can't tolerate this channel. People who are in a hurry, you can't, because, you know, it's like information is there. The content drives what I do. I don't control how long the videos are. I cover the content, and whatever the time is, that's what's there. So you're not gonna find a lot of 3-minute videos here, you know. So there are just some people who can't stomach the channel, because I had a guy that tell me in a note. He said it takes patience to watch your videos, and you know, it depends on whether you want to be educated. You know, you can't go to college and do it in a year. Not if you want a 4-year degree. It takes time for the brain to absorb the information. So that's just the way it is. So I focus on the content and let it draw the right people, and that's what's been happening. So I'm very thankful for it. You know, I like the community on here. People who are seeking knowledge have a tendency to come here. There's a lot of debris on this road right here. I'm waving. There's a tree taking up half the lane here, as you see. And I think Mark had his head down. He didn't see it. It was Paul that pointed it out. So I told him, I said, Mark, open your eyes. I stood up just to kind of change the way my muscles were working. I did not change my speed. I shifted up because my cadence was lower. Don't feel like you're stuck in the saddle. You should be able to stand, and you know, you want to stretch yourself or whatever is going on. You should be able to do that. You're riding for a lot of hours. The reason why you shouldn't be able to do that. You should be able to do that. So keep that in mind. If you're not able to do that, then you need to practice standing, the little things like drinking. See me reaching for the bottle? You notice my head stayed straight forward. You always want to look ahead. I only glance down at the cage when I slip the bottle in. I don't look at it. I glance just a little bit to line up that bottle, and I never let go of the bottle until it notches in there, because I don't want to drop the bottle in the baseline. You can cause a wreck. This is where, is that where the tree? I don't know. That's just debris. I don't know if we've passed it or not, but there was a tree covering half the lane, a branch of a tree. I ended up telling Mark, open your eyes. I mean, look at the day. It was a warm day, but it wasn't super hot. It says 24C. I guess that's kind of warm, but with the breeze we had, it was nice. It's not bad. We're going up a climb. I think this one goes up to like 4%. Very deceiving. Bailey Grove Road is a nice road to do a workout. It's always quiet. I believe this one goes up to 4%, if I'm not mistaken. We're still climbing. It may say 0, but it's up and down. We're climbing. It seems flat when you're on it, and then you just feel it bite. Yeah, this is the one. Then we're gonna turn left. may have been a 3%er, but I think there's a 4%er coming up. I think when Paul H takes over. There's just so many climbs on this road. It's just nice, it's curvy. It's just a beautiful road to ride a bicycle on. Mark pulls off the front. Paul H continues the pace, and we roll through. Mark drifts back. I think he's calling as a car is coming. The car's up front, car's firm, something like that. You can hear the wind. It's later in the morning. The wind has picked up. We're going downhill here. I open my upper body to slow me down, catch more wind, and then I slip back behind Paul H. That way I did not have to use my brakes. I think this might be the 4%er on this road. We've got a lot of grades on here. I think this is it. It does not look as imposing, but you feel it when you're riding. You can see our speeds have dropped by about 4 kilometers an hour. I'm keeping my cadence high. Because that just feels good at this time, at this point in the ride. So we're going downhill. You can see we went from 28 kilometers an hour. We're doing 46. That's the beauty of these roads. I'm basically coasting right here, trying to stay in the wind to avoid braking. It's a decreasing radius turn here. It's a little tricky. You can see we went from downhill to 2% in no time. Paul is just standing to keep that gear rolling. I'm spinning a high cadence in a moderate gear. So you got to do what feels right for you at the moment. So we're moving. I mean, we're not playing. That's what I was talking about. We did not slow down because we went further out. We're pretty much holding the same effort the main group holds when the entire group is together. And just having my cadence up high, I can react to the changes in speed so much easier. Right here, I'm just really freewheeling and soft pedaling. We're turning left. We've hit 1097, the west part of 1097. There are two of them out here. We're gonna go southbound for a bit, like a dog leg, and then we go west on Johnson Road. Right here, Patrick goes south on 1097. He's gonna head south and then go east, so he can head home. The guy in the green jersey I talked about earlier, you will hear him say his goodbyes. That's Patrick telling us to take care, and he's going straight on 1097. I will take him back to Montgomery, and then he will head east via 105 or whatever road he chooses to get him home. That's Rudy behind me here. Rudy had pulled earlier. So basically after the turn, we're coming on this road. This road is up and down as well. I'm keeping the pace kind of timid to let everybody kind of regroup.
Nice and shady, nice and smooth.
In a little while, you'll see Rudy come around me. He's impatient and he wants to go faster. I just continue to ride the same effort. So right there, he goes by. I'm just holding the same effort. I'm staying in zone 2. So when you're riding, you always have to be aware of, sometimes by feel or just by looking behind you to see what the group is doing. And right there, Rudy does not look behind. He's just riding off. I go ahead and just keep the pace steady. I hear Mark and them chatting, you know.
Yeah. I know, he's the one we rode down.
We're talking about Patrick. Because for 2 rides, I didn't know his name, and I would always refer to the color of his jersey. So I told him that I got a chance to meet Patrick. That's what I'm telling Paul. So we're kind of chatting. And I'm not that concerned about Rudy being off in the distance. We can catch him if we choose to. He ends up slowing down. The group has its moment where people kind of regroup and drink and do whatever. Even in races, there are periods of time where the races slow down because the people who were animating the race decide to not push, and then no one else wants to go. So there's always a lull. This is a chance to drink, do whatever you need to get back going. And I think somewhere around here, Rudy backed off. Yeah, I think right here. I end up just going past him because all I'm doing is holding the same pace. I didn't slow down, he did. So we go past him here. So Mark says car back. I go to the end of the white line to give the driver an easier way to pass. So ride it the opposite way. The road starts to go up. I press on the pedals. It's like 3%, 4%. Yeah, this is, Johnson Road has some nice, short, steep climbs. I don't get too excited. I just kind of press on and just take what the road gives me. I'm aware that we have about another 3 hours to ride. This is the way you must think. Okay, because we ended up doing more than 5 hours, I believe, on this ride. Well, close to 5 hours. So you have to always think about how many more hours you got to ride, what you got left in the tank. All of that's critical. We ended up riding a little over 5 hours on this day. So right here we're not even at the 3 hour mark. So we got about another 2 hours and 20 minutes left. I'm not calculating it that way. I just know that we're about a little over midway in the ride. So you've got to save something to get back. I end up burning almost 3,000 kilojoules, whatever Strava calculates, whatever that means to them. I don't calculate in kilojoules. It's calories for me. But it was a very epic ride. So the road's going up again. I put my hands on the bar to open up my chest. To breathe. So we're doing about 32 kilometers an hour. So we're riding anywhere between 28 to 32 kilometers an hour between a 1% to a 4% grades. That's pretty good. Because the day after this ride, I felt like I had gone to the gym and had done squats. My legs felt it. So the high efforts will do that. And now you can see our speeds going up. My effort has not changed. The terrain has. So we're at -1, which is slightly downhill to flat. That's why I don't believe in gauging your effort by speed. You need other tools out of your RPE. I can tell I'm in zone 2. I see I'm in zone 2. I think this is Mike. Mike's probably coming over, or is it? No, it's Mark. He's probably coming over to slow down, and because the wind, when you're going downhill and you're behind, you go faster than the people in front because they're pushing the wind. But once the road flattens up, you will see Mark slip back. I don't change anything I'm doing. There, he slipped back because the road has leveled off somewhat. It's going to be really flat, and the speed will drop over to about 36 to 38 kilometers an hour. We're moving 26, 27 miles an hour regularly like it's nothing. I mean, we're just, that's what comes from riding lots and riding the right intensities. It's not overnight. It comes from consistent, structured training, in my opinion. That's what has worked for me. I was fortunate to have a coach when I competed, and I learned a lot from that, and that's why I coach people now, because it just saves you a lot of trial and error. That's any sport. People who, when I played basketball, I learned more when I played college basketball than all the basketball I played before then, because the coaches in college were so much better. You learn the basics of the game that you take for granted. You pretty much have to go back to school in a game that you're good at. And if you're a student of the game, you learn quickly that not everything you're doing was the easy way. I learned real quickly it was easier to pass the basketball than dribble all the way down 90 feet. However long the court is. You're running around for 48 minutes, you need to move that ball and save your energy. You learn that real quickly. That's the first thing they show you. You use position, you move that ball around, get people out of position before you take the shot. You don't learn that in the playground. You play that one-on-one nonsense in the playground. Anyway, back to cycling. So the grade, the wind, the terrain, my speed drops. I probably downshift. I'm a little below. Yeah, I think I'm asking them if we're gonna turn. They're asking if we're gonna stop at the store over here. I think I tell them in a little bit that these guys charge for ice. We shouldn't stop there. A lot of these places are beginning to charge for ice because a lot of times we stop and we just take ice and water and leave. We don't have to buy anything. And I guess that's their way. So we don't patronize those that do that foolishness. The ice is not in a bag that's packaged for sale. It just comes out of the fountain machines. And I don't want to charge 50 cents for ice.
Yeah. That's fine. We don't want to stop here. These guys charge for ice. We need to go places that make sense. They don't need to.
They're only doing that just another way to charge you. I mean, is because we're not buying bags of ice.
Yeah, they charge for ice from the machine that makes ice from water.
For tap water.
They're charging me for tap water.
So we turn left. This is Dacus. We turn left on 1486.
We don't necessarily buy stuff. So now they got to find a way to get in our pockets. We get there, we put ice in the bottle, get some water from the tap, and we leave. They don't like that.
Yeah. Especially in the summer, we just need ice. We take tap water, put it in there. We don't buy stuff. Every now and then we'll buy bottled water, but we end up leaving it behind anyway. But they don't like that. And when you're spending more, so they charge it so they can get more revenue. It's fine, but so we can choose where we patronize. It's a little hole in the wall anyway. There's a nicer store at 105, so we decide to ride into Dobbins and stop at the Exxon thing. We don't film at the Exxon. We just stop, fill up our bottles, and head south. So what I did here for in the effort of time on this road, most of the pulling was done by Paul H. So those of you who want to make excuses, no room for that. Paul H is kicking it. So I don't care unless you 200. You better get out there. This is Paul H. This is after our stop. He pulled us all the way on 1486 into Dobbins. We stopped at Buffalo. He's still pulling. He's up front. So all of you guys, what you are 35, 45, 50, you a bunch of kids. This guy's in his 70s and he's dragging us into the wind. You will see Rudy pose for the camera here. That's why I was telling Paul Ilonga. We're bridging up to Paul H right here. He's moving along. We're moving too slow. We got to get up there. He's like, we got to get into the business of riding. Paul H does not mess around. He comes out to work out. Hello, hello, let's go ride. There's Rudy posing for the camera. Look at him. I told Paulie Lunga about it. I have the camera on the bars on the gimbal, and I just tilted it to the side, so it's not raised up or anything. But he still spotted it out there posing. I'm like, really? Come on, man. This is not a fashion show here. We're riding here. Oh man, everybody's having fun. So basically, Paul H and Rudy end up taking us home on this highway. So we're headed back now. You see, it's like 3.5 hours into the ride. So we got about another hour and a half. And we're headed south. Mike is with us, and Mike started cramping in a few kilometers, or maybe about 5 or 6 kilometers down the road. I end up spotting that he was gapped, and you'll see it develop. But he was cramping. We ended up, waiting just a bit. He got back in the draft, and then we took another stop at the Exxon. I think they had already eaten pickles, or they would eat pickles at the next stop anyway. They were eating that stuff. I gave the camera to Paul Ilonga here, and I told him to just leave the gap for me. And Mark was going to come in front. I said, just to the Mark, just hold your position where you are. And we kind of stay like this for the rest of the ride. But you will see in a little bit that the efforts or whatever is going on with Mike, Mike wasn't the one instigating all the attacks. He was just trying to stay with the group. But he ended up cramping on this ride. But, he got over. He was okay because on Sunday he came out to ride with us as well. Sunday's ride, we ran into some wet roads. It didn't rain on us, but the roads were wet from showers that had occurred, contrary to our forecasted weather conditions. So we got kind of messy, but we still rode. I got almost 4 hours in. I think 3 hours 45 minutes on Sunday. Anything over 3 hours on Sunday is good. Get that in early, and I was back home by 10:45 in the morning, which is good. But as we ride through here, Mike is having some difficulty because he's cramping, I think, in his hamstring area, upper hamstring, close to the groin area. He's cramping. At this point, I don't know about it. We're just riding along behind Paul H. And one thing about the guys in this group, once the road goes up, they don't back off. They don't soft pedal on the hills. So right here, the road starts to go up, we press on. We want to keep the speed the same. In order to do that, you got to put out more watts, more effort to maintain your speed as the road goes up. So to stay around 27, 28 kilometers an hour, we got to push harder when the road goes up. That's what's going on here. So a lot of times in a group, you're not going to get perfect drafting all the time. That's why you have to train consistently to keep up with a group, because not every time you'll get to save all the energy you want to save. So you got to have a little extra to close gaps or hang in there in certain situations. You got to do the work. Do the group ride, find what's lacking during the week, work on that, come back to the group to see how you fare. And your goal is to just do better than last week, and then the next week better than this week. That should be your goal. I've talked about it before. Don't go out to the group ride, try to be a hero before you find out what your capabilities are or what the group really is about or how hard they ride. Find out first before you start expending a lot of energy so you're not surprised. Because it's not fun hitting the wall. When you hit the wall, you're on empty. It's a bad place to be. I think somewhere here, yeah, I look back and I see somebody off our pace. So I look back again to make sure. I tell them that Mike's off the pace, we need to slow down when we turn. So Mark says, you guys go ahead, I'll wait for him. I decided we all should just wait. That's what used to happen in 1, 2, 3 race. You think you're fast and then you have to do it for 4 hours. And you're like, yeah, I don't ride this fast and this long. Everything starts hurting. Rudy says that's good hurting and that's bad hurting. That's what we're talking about. He said he did the 1, 2, 3 race.
I saw he went for.
So before Paul can finish his thought there, Mark says we're all on, so we can go. So Paul was gonna explain again, and then we pick up. Rudy takes off, so I go ahead and motion, and then I told Paul, let me just get behind Rudy, because my plan was Paul has pulled enough that if Rudy's done, I can pull and get us in. So that's why I took that position. So we didn't get to finish what we're talking about, but what we had been talking about was that Rudy and I talked about USCF racing, where once I got up to Cat 2, it was like too crazy. I couldn't maintain it because I needed so many more hours to be on Cat 3. So what he was talking about is that he would do the 1, 2, 3 racing because he was a Cat 3. And he said that the races were so hard. And he talked about what he called good hurt and bad hurt. And that's what we're laughing about. He said he'd be hurting, and he said, man, there's some bad hurt you don't want to deal with. So I knew what he meant. It's just that when you're racing with the pros at that level and you're not training as much as they do, you just don't have the high speed endurance you need. And so you start hurting earlier than they do. You know, they're doing 90-mile races. I mean, you know, it's just amazing. So if you're not devoting the amount of hours to it, which if you have a full-time job and other commitments, you just can't do. So we're rolling along on Jackson Road, and in a little bit, you will see this genius. This guy, he's passing us. Now watch, he's turning into a driveway right here and chooses to pass. And it's just too close. Look at that. We end up catching it, and we move over. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's only 6 of us. Let me see. Rudy, myself, Paul H. Yeah, 6 riders. A whopping, 2 seconds maybe? That's the best decision he came up with. Cut in front of us. If we were not paying attention, that could have caused an accident there. They make a lot of dumb decisions on the road. You know, anyway, no harm, no foul. We continue plowing ahead. I hope that you all got a chance to get out there and get your Ks in, but this is what we did on Saturday. keep those doctors far